I'm a nerd.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Nerds!
I'm not kissing a nerd.
What is a nerd?
Holy crap, are we nerdy?
All right, welcome, Nerdables, to episode 104. This week, we are embracing the Batman. We're going to be talking all things Batman, our favorite encounters, and we're going to rank some of the villains and our favorite actors who played the Dark Knight. So joining me this week are Chris, Ethan, Sebastian, and Mikey. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
So let's just jump right in. Chris, what's your first time enjoying
Just jump
Batman?
right in.
Yeah.
We had such a. I thought we already did this part.
Yes, we skipped it because there was. What was the first time you enjoyed Batman?
Well, it was a dark and stormy night. And he came to my door.
What was the first time you became aware of Batman as a character?
When he came to my door, he was quite a character. Dressed up in a black suit, black cosplay type suit thing.
This was before cosplay.
Oh, it was nothing before cosplay. People used to cosplay. I think the first awareness thing would probably be the Super Friends cartoon and or Scooby Doo. I don't remember watching a lot of. I remember watching Scooby Doo a lot, but I don't specifically remember the Batman and Robin episodes. But that, and then seeing the Batman.
You don't remember
6060
the Batman one with the Globetrotters?
No, I remember him. It's just I don't remember There's not a definitive point where I remember okay, that was the first thing that I saw. It's not
Because the Super Friends
like
came
I
out in the
remember-
early 80s.
Yeah, but it was all in syndication and it was all jumbled up and
Right.
I didn't watch a whole bunch of TV when I was a kid, at least not in the afternoon. I used to watch Scooby Doo when my parents came home.
Gotcha.
I'd watch it with my father, and then Father Knows Best, which is a very obscure cartoon that nobody seems to remember. But that would probably be the first experience, and then you get into the '80s with the Tim Burton movies. When I was reading comics as a kid, I was only reading licensed titles, G.I. Joe, Star Wars. And then I got into Aliens versus Predator, and then Turtles and Usagi Yojimbo. I wasn't really reading superhero titles at all. My friend Eric was reading Batman, probably around the time that the first Burton movie came out. It was 88, I think.
89.
It's 89. Yeah, 89. Because
So that was probably the first thing I remember reading his. He had the Frank Miller hardcover collection, this really nice leather-bound book, and I read that had Year One and Dark Knight Returns. I remember reading that. That was kind of the first time I was like, okay, this is really good. And I started picking up issues here and there. But the biggest influence would be the animated series.
Yeah.
I watched that almost every afternoon, and that kind of defined a lot of the things that we think of with Batman. Like I said, the characters in it too. It's why one of the reasons I watch Gotham and I don't like Bullock at all is because he's not the Bullock from the cartoon series.
right.
Everyone's like, well, in the comic he was a little crooked. And I'm like, but he wasn't in the cartoon series, so that I have
He was a
hard time
lot
buying.
crooked in the Tim Burton movie.
Yeah. So that would probably be it. And we talked about that last year when Kevin Smith talked about it at the WonderCon Batman 75 panels. That cultural touchstones. Every generation has a different kind of entry point, a mass entry point. 66 TV series, the Burton movies, and then the animated series, and then you go through stuff like that. So that'd probably be those are my earliest. That's what I can remember anyway. I don't have a defining. If you ask me the first comic I ever read, I know it. The first comic I ever bought for myself, I know it. But the Batman one, the first Batman comic I remember reading is Year One. So.
Yeah.
And it's still my favorite of all time.
Ethan, how about you?
My first introduction with Batman, I don't know.
Bruce, this is Ethan. Ethan, this is Bruce.
I'm not sure if it was either watching the 66 TV series on syndication or the animated series when it was originally produced. So I'm not sure which one I saw first, but I remember,
Did you
around
see
the
them both
time.
at the same time?
Probably, it was around.
Were you confused why in the animated series when you hit someone it didn't say kapow?
Why is he wearing black?
Zork.
Zork, Zoink. No, yeah.
Where's Robin?
I think when I was a lot younger, that was all on syndication with Nickelodeon and TV Land and all that stuff. So I watched those a lot. But the one that I remember the most was the animated series.
Yeah. Sebastian?
animated series as a kid was the big one, and also the Tim Burton movies because my dad had them on VHS. But
What is a VHS?
well, back in the days when they used to store video and audio on magnetic tape,
What?
they put it into a cartridge.
How do you steal that from the internet?
A friend of mine had a
Oh.
Betamax.
Yeah, we also had Betamax as well.
We started with Beta and
Laserdisc. We had Laserdisc at home too.
we
Not
started
many
with
people
Beta
had
and it
Laser.
had a wired remote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an old video game controller goes all the way down.
It was just like a block.
Ours was a little bit thinner, but
Yeah, it
it
had
was
like
still
three
the
buttons
same
on
Pretty
idea.
it.
small, yeah, and it had like little. It looked like a little headphone jack.
Exactly.
3.5 millimeter. But comics wise, I like a lot of like my. I know my first comic. Like my first comic ever was Green Lantern 222. But for Batman, it was probably when toy stores used to sell like the bundle.
Right.
Like, here's $10 and it's like 50 comics, 25 comics, and in there were a couple Nightfall issues.
That was one of the first comics I ever read of Batman.
But I think it was like Nightfall, like 7 and 11, just rando.
Damn it! I gotta get all these other
Yeah.
You
stupid
read
issues.
them and you still kind of understood what was going on. You
I
still
did,
enjoyed
yeah.
them. It's not
Yeah,
like
they were
now.
still fun. And then beyond that, probably getting one of like the greatest Batman story ever told collections at the library.
That's
and,
cool.
And reading like Laughing Fish.
What is a library?
Well, it's a big brick building where
see,
they
back when
store
we had
books and
VHS.
hobos be there.
It's,
back when we
it's
had
the bathroom for the
VHS.
hobos now.
How do you steal stuff from the library?
That's the
you
thing.
put it in your
They're
jacket.
free.
Lisa, we can't afford all these books.
As long as
We're
you
just
bring
borrowing them, Bart. Sure, borrowing them. Gotcha.
How about you, Mikey?
I think I saw the Batman '66 reruns before the Batman '89 movie, and then after Batman '89, I went out and I think I got like 4 comic books. There was 3 Batman and Star Trek Undiscovered Country adaptation, and those were my first 4 comics. It was like the 400, 415, 16, and 17 issues, and I still have them, so and that made me want to get all the rest of the 400s.
Sweet.
I have all the 400s. So.
I think mine has to be the Scooby-Doo when Batman and Robin would come on. I think it was with one episode with Shelley Winters, or it might have been the Globetrotters one was like the first one. And then they used to, after they had stopped showing the 66, they had started showing the Batman movie. You'd see that on TV all the time. And that was like the first live action I'd seen of Batman.
Like the '66 movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And so those were my introductions into Batman. Then of course the Tim Burton movie and the animated series, and
I remember seeing the movie at the library when I was older. Like it just had a cut. You know, so, like the library had a movie night or whatever. And we'd go see it because that's the one. Isn't that
So
the
you
one with the shark?
saw the movie on VHS at the library.
Probably. Or no, it might have even been like a film projector. I mean, I don't even remember. I mean, it was a long time. It was when the Newbury Park Library was this like box.
Yeah.
It was this little tiny thing that was in the parking lot of. It was in the parking
Sears.
lot. No, it was in the parking lot of the middle school. It was
But
in
the
the parking
great-
lot of Sequoia.
The great
It was
thing
just
about
it was a
the
single
whoa.
building in the parking lot of Sequoia. That was a library.
Wow.
And
Before they
was-
built that branch?
Yeah, and then they built the big, huge branch when that used to be a Ralph's, and then the Ralph's went out. This has been Newbury Park Memories with Chris. Many, many years ago, that center where that used to be
Burt's Pharmacy.
Yeah, Burt's Pharmacy, and it was the middle was a grocery store. I don't remember what came after the grocery store, but then it was nothing
a
for
pharmacy.
years.
No, the pharmacy's Burt's, isn't it?
No, the pharmacy's Burt's. And Burt's is where I bought my first comic.
So yeah, and then there was also the Super Friends cartoon, which was almost felt like a carryover from when you saw Batman on Scooby Doo.
Meanwhile,
I don't
In the
ever
Hall
remember
of Justice.
watching any of that when I was young.
I don't remember any of it, like specifically. I remember seeing it because I remember the Wonder Twins. Form of uselessness.
The Legion of Doom used to come out of the swamp.
Yeah, and you remember the Hall of Justice and the Star Wipe and everything with it. Like, so I knew it existed, but I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you a specific episode. Like, I know more of the way that the Harvey Birdman did it than
Oh, yeah.
Enoch Chuck.
So,
Apache Chief cannot grow.
so what was the first time that you saw Batman when you started liking Batman, or did that come later on, or did you first time you see it was like, oh, this is cheesy, or this is stupid? I mean, I guess if you saw the animated series first, you're not going to go, oh, this is cheesy. But if you saw some of the 66 stuff, then probably
Depends
you
Well,
on what
even
you
the
think is
60
cheesy.
Depends on what
Even the
age.
66
66
though.
stuff was when I was like, 6 or 7.
Yeah,
so
and
that
that
was like awesome to me.
Because
I
they
was
used
like,
to-
yeah.
They used to do it on like TV Land, really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
late
Like
at night.
Nickelodeon, they had
Yeah.
Nick at Night. They had
Yeah,
on
it used to be.
there.
It used to be on local syndication.
TBS
When I
used to
was-
show it all the time.
Right. And
Well,
now-
yeah, and I never had any of those channels. It was before like everything on Channel 9 and Channel 5 were either talk shows or infomercials. So they used to just need to fill that whole morning with stuff, and so they would be like the Batman 66, much like the GI Joe cartoon. Though, even when I was a kid, I'm like, this is dumb,
Yeah.
and not like this is dumb, and I hate it. It was just like this is dumb. It's just
Even
I
as a
know
kid,
this
you
is
looked
dumb.
at
Yeah.
GI Joe and you're like, this
Oh,
is stupid.
God.
But
When I was 6,
enjoy it because
I didn't necessarily enjoy it. Like it was. It's
Oh,
off
I
topic.
did.
Oh no! I
Oh,
always
I
knew it was stupid. I hated the stories. It was always I wanted more. Like I'm just these are
Yeah.
dumb and everything. But
Was that after you had already started reading GI Joe comics? Though?
yes, because
Oh.
the comic came first.
Okay.
The comic had come before.
But see, I never read G.I. Joe as a comic
Yeah,
book
so
as a
you
kid.
didn't
So
you didn't know the potential
Right.
of it being not like super serious, but taken more seriously than
Right.
the cartoon.
That's why that's why I love Resolute.
Yeah, the
Yes.
the comic. It's way off topic, but watching the TV series, you're like, Gung Ho can't fly a fucking Sky Striker. You know, he's not qualified. He's not a
Right.
fixed wing pilot. He's a Marine. It would just be stuff like that.
But see, it's not really
You
off
take it
topic
too
because
seriously.
if you look at it, that was the catalyst for Frank Miller to write The Dark Knight Returns.
Well, it's
Was because he wanted to have a more serious Batman.
well, he wrote Year One
Yes.
because it was a little bit. As you go through it, you have Batman 66 becomes the influence. DC looks at it and says, if most of the people in America recognize Batman because of the silly TV series, maybe we should make the comic more like that. But it never went down to this road where it was just dumb. And you got to remember, even after that, in the 70s, you have Neil Adams doing amazing art on it. It was never taken to be that stupid.
right.
When Frank Miller took over it, it wasn't even just a sense of Batman. It was a sense of comics in general of them going, they're trying to get out of the, hey, this is just for 5-year-old stuff.
Right. And I mean, it's comic history too.
Yeah,
That,
Marvel
when-
was doing the same thing.
Yeah, when the Comics Code was enacted after, essentially during the Red Scare.
Right.
And when they did the Comics Code, they became a self-governing body. They had crazy rules like no monsters. All superheroes had to respect authority and local police forces.
There was no cussing. There was no.
Well, that's the thing.
But, I mean,
You have basic
the villain,
rules.
the villain
man.
could never win.
Yeah, to go what Sebastian's talking about is farther than something like the FCC is basically saying don't show any boobs and don't say the F word. This was not only don't show anything that's questionable, you're bound by rules to say that Superman can't question the president of the United States.
Right.
If you're in the 1960s and the 1970s, you have Superman sitting at the White House looking at John F. Kennedy and going, hey, this whole Bay of Pigs thing, that's not going to work. The Comics Code looks at that and says, you
can't
can't
do it.
publish that.
And by the
because the
time,
government
by the
will
time
just
you
be on
got
that.
Exactly. Yeah, you couldn't publish anything subversive at all.
Right.
Right.
So as you got farther and farther, The Dark Knight Returns would have never been a code comic because you basically have Superman in the thrall of a Ronald Reagan who's in his 30th term as president. The whole second half of that is a huge deconstruction of where Frank Miller thought our America was going, which is kind of funny because where he ended up. Probably would have liked Reagan a lot more. But the whole second half of it, his satire is in Superman being a stooge of the American government and talking about how in comics themselves, the Justice League, the Avengers, these are all, governing body sanctioned heroes that are just doing the thrall of the status quo world order.
Right.
And that led to a whole new group of stories in which there
Right.
were things like Justice League International, where they're a private corporation run Justice League. Instead of being enthralled to a government, like what was worse, being beholden to the Americans, being beholden to the United Nations, or being beholden to Maxwell Lord? All of this stuff kind of bubbled up at that same time in the 80s as we were starting to question what was going on.
Right.
The corporations run.
Yeah,
Right.
in a different
Anyway,
way that
but-
you would do that subversive counterculture anti-government stuff than you did in the 70s or you did in the 60s. This was the way it came out in the 80s.
Right. Especially because the Comics Code's power started to wane late 60s, early 70s. 'Cause then you got like Neil Adams doing stories about drugs. But they talk about how hard it was to do those stories because they had to sort of fight like it's not a pro-drug story.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an anti, and
It's the whole Green Arrow.
yeah, Stan Lee even did the same thing when he did his drug issues for Spider-Man, and they printed them without the approval. I mean, Marv Wolfman, I think, tells a story about how they had mentioned his name in one of the letter, like sort of the afterword of the book, talking about some of the upcoming stuff. We got a new writer, and the Comics Code almost didn't print the book because it said, "Hey, you got reference to Wolfman in this."
Right.
And they had to sort of go like, "No, that's his name." Exactly.
So, speaking of, since we're on the topic of stories, what's everyone's favorite story?
Like
Of all time?
Well, that's
A Batman story.
That's a tough one. Like this because I don't know that kind of range because there are Batman greats and then there are like personal favorites.
Well, there's
Your personal.
I think it's a personal thing.
favorite.
I mean, if it's personally for me, it's Batman Year One. And
Okay.
it's been that for a long time. It was Dark Knight Returns for a long time because it was so different than anything I'd read. But as I kept going, I realized that how much I loved Year One and that story of his beginnings and just the style and the tone and the execution of that to me is my favorite. It's my favorite Batman story. It's my favorite Batman comic. It'd probably be my favorite Batman story. I don't have anything else that I would see. I'd go, okay, this is. But you obviously have favorites in different things. You'd have a favorite TV episode. You'd
Right,
have a favorite
yeah.
movie. You'd have a favorite. My favorite movie is the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, because that's amazing. Yeah, chill.
Okay, Ethan, what's your favorite story?
Batman.
I can't think of one from the comics.
What was it?
Doesn't
Batman
matter.
Eternal, right?
No?
Batman Eternal #1.
Did you ever
Well,
finish that?
it was, yeah. Well, that's a
you're the
different
only
story.
You're the only person that finished Batman Eternal.
No, I read
No,
all
no, no,
Batman
no.
Eternal.
I didn't finish it. Let's put it this way: I've bought all the issues, but I think
have
I've only read like the
bought.
first 3. But,
You might
You're
want to
beginning
get on
to
that.
speak like-
yeah, I know, right?
So what's your your favorite Batman story of all time? Whether it's TV, movie, comic book,
It was a dark and stormy night.
Chris's Tales.
Batman came to my door.
It always comes back to I remember there was a storyline on the animated series that Batman had with Clayface, and that one always sticks out whenever I think of the TV shows. I think it was one of my favorite episodes because it was just such.
When Clayface was created, or
Feet of Clay.
later on?
Yeah.
The Feet of Clay was
Yeah.
the first appearance of Clayface on the
Yeah.
show. It's an amazing episode. And
Because it just seems like it was so difficult for Batman, like it was like a guy that was basically giving him a challenge for the first time, and for him to overcome that, I think that one sticks out to me the most when I think of my favorite Batman story.
And also the idea of legacy, because he's a guy whose life is ruined, and it's a story of essentially drug addiction, and his career is over after his car accident. It's an amazing episode, and then he gets turned into Clayface, and
Yeah.
it's one that, and it's I think it's a 2-parter too.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Sebastian?
Animated series for me is Heart of Ice, the Mr. Freeze episodes, because that's the first time.
Mr. Freeze.
Exactly.
Wow.
It,
I take that back. It's my favorite Batman. It's Future Batman by
Future
animation.
mostly because I think it was like Feet of Clay is my number 2, but I think it's the first time, like, especially as a kid, like getting an episode where you can sympathize with, I suppose, someone who's a villain or at least an anti-hero in the episode. And because characters like the Joker, they're completely unsympathetic. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be sort of that opposite side of the coin for Batman. But Mr. Freeze is a
That's
guy.
one of the problems with the Joker now. Is really like, no, I can really understand his character. That's not the point. You're
not
crazy.
supposed
Stop
to.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally
He's pretty
agree
much my
with,
favorite DC
Sebastian.
Yeah,
character.
and it's the first time I think like you're a little kid and you feel for characters and cartoons and movies and stuff, and you get caught up in the moment. But something like Mr. Freeze, where I think you like the show overall is just a lesson in good storytelling, because I don't think there's a single unwatchable episode of Batman the Animated Series. It's completely consistent through its entire run, and through the entire Timverse too. When you get into Superman the Animated Series,
Right.
and Justice League. and
But is this
everything
your
animated.
favorite Batman story for comic books?
Comic books would be The Long Halloween, I think, and for me, it's simply that because it's
What? But Jeff Loeb sucks.
the eye roll. Mostly because I think it's the one Batman story that I can like out of all of them that I have that I can just pick up and read.
That's my favorite story, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, and not, and it doesn't matter when you sort of know the twists and turns. It's just like the art is gorgeous, the writing is consistent, and it's one of the few books where you can hear, at least for me, the animated series versions of the characters in your head.
Oh, you should read Scott Snyder's run, but have it in Diedrich Bader's voice from The Brave and the Bold.
Oh yeah, no,
It's amazing.
I remember when I was working at the shop, we talked about that, and it's amazing.
When he told me that after I started watching The Brave and the Bold, I couldn't look at it the same way again. I was like, "Oh,
We'll
fuck
talk about
you,
that Brave and
Chris."
the Bold
Mr.
series.
Freeze, we got to get out of here.
Mikey, what's your
Justice
favorite
cannot take a climb, Court of Owls.
story of all time?
The Bible.
Hello, Batman then said unto the people of Gotham.
On the seventh day, Batman rested after creating.
For he does not work on Sundays.
Well, if he didn't work on Sundays,
believe
then
him.
that's a good in for all the criminals.
All right, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rob the bank on Sundays. Why? It's not even open, but Batman's not gonna stop us.
Oh, okay. How are we going to get in?
Doesn't matter. We'll just knock on the door. It's not like the cops around here do anything. They all rely on Batman.
Nah. You're saying
I enjoyed the Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker.
Nice.
But I didn't
Yeah.
like when I was a kid. I didn't really care about the Batman the animated series. I mean, I
It's
like
too
it
mainstream
now.
for you.
Well, no, I just didn't like it compared to the other schlocky shit that was out there. But
What are you watching
the-
instead of Batman?
It was too
It was
mainstream.
all the Disney stuff that came out at that time. It was on because it was on during the afternoon. I think when I came home from school, and I never
Darkwing
watched that.
Duck
Like
and
I don't know, for something about it that I just didn't.
There
care
weren't
about.
enough-
Yeah, I was
there
just-
weren't
I was
enough
more
ducks
into-
in it?
At the time, there was enough.
There was no animals.
there
I
was
got
all
Rescue
the-
Rangers,
there was
I
all the
got
Disney
Darkwing Duck,
crap.
and I got
Yeah.
DuckTales. So if it's not an animal,
Tailspin, all that.
But
shit.
so
he's
the
Batman.
I
the
was-
Man
I
Bat
thought this was
episodes are your favorite episodes.
I was
This
a
is what I'm
Disney
talking about.
follower
There's
at
a
that
creature
time,
in
so-
this.
Nah, I just didn't like the tone at the time. But and now, going back and watching those episodes, and after reading, knowing all the characters that exist in the universe, I was like, yeah, that's cool. You see Matches Malone or anything like that.
Mr. Freeze.
I still just remember the Crash and Burn issue that I had. I don't know, it was the 400 issue, one of the early ones that I picked up. So, and I read that a lot. So, I don't know if that's necessarily my favorite now, but
what's your favorite
I
now?
don't fucking know. I don't have. I try not to have favorites of anything, so I just put everything in the same boat.
Which one?
Mikey's
Which
so
one
so progressive that way.
of the Batman?
Don't ask me to choose
Of
between
all
my
of the
children.
Batman material out there, what is the one Batman story or arc that you can reread or enjoy multiple times?
That's the thing.
That'd be
I
favorite.
haven't gotten to the point of rereading anything. So
Mikey's looking
I
for something
read
new,
it,
man.
I read it. I know I've read it. I know the story. Obviously, you have the saying of, it doesn't matter as long as you read it. But you already know the fucking ending. So, I mean, movies are different because it's a visual medium.
Comics are
But-
visual.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, then let's go right into it. What's your favorite
motion?
Batman movie?
I'll go Burton. Michael
The
Keaton.
'89 Batman.
No, Michael Keaton.
Chris.
I like Michael Keaton as Batman. Yes, Christian Bale is a good Batman, but
I can't take him as Bruce Wayne.
I perfectly take him as Bruce Wayne, more so than Batman, but
It just doesn't look like Bruce Wayne to me. It'd probably be Dark Knight. It's just that movie, to me, succeeds on so many levels, despite Christopher Nolan haters out there. Nobody does this. Yes, it does a lot of things wrong that, like I've said, you forgive a film that you enjoy for something that seems out of place for stylistic reasons. You know,
Right.
the bus coming out of the bank with a bus behind it going.
Why is that bus covered in rubble?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey
Not
Jim.
saying anything.
Hey Jim. Yeah, it's Bob back here in bus 382.
There's no.
So this bus, yeah, the one in front of me, it's right behind you. It pulled out. No, it just pulled right out of the bank and just joined the. Hey, you think maybe? Yeah, maybe we should call the cops. Maybe we should let somebody know
That bus don't got no kids
this
on it.
bus just pulled out and just became
Part of the line.
part of the line. But it looks cool, and when you get to the end of the film, you're like, all right, I had a great time. And
Well,
but-
there's a.
What if the line of buses were part of their bus? What if it was part of their gang?
whoa,
He wasted so much money.
Yeah.
Then,
Just
then the
pulled out,
bus,
nobody
the
would've
bus
said
at the end
anything
the
else.
waits for the Joker to get onto it.
the missing scene is him paying out everything they stole from the bank to all these different bus drivers for being a part of the lineup.
It's well, it's also
How much did we make away with Joker? $5. That's
It's
what
like,
we
well, it's
got.
also he's in the
Let's
hospital
get a Happy
in
Meal.
his Joker makeup, and it's like
Yeah.
nurses in general are
Right.
pretty observant people. They're gonna notice.
Well,
a
they're
lady not
running
even-
away, trying
not
to get out of
even-
the city or
Not
whatever.
even in scrubs, in a just
It's
a
in a
cheesy
classic old
nurse-
nurse.
It
outfit.
was. It's like a 1950s.
Yeah,
version.
no, but no. The biggest sin is like he basically does the whole bus thing over again in Dark Knight Rises, where he robs Wall Street, and Wall Street only operates until 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon on the East Coast. And he goes in, and it's bright daylight. There's two guys who even say like they're gonna go to lunch, and then they leave the building. It's dusk, and they have
Well,
a
see,
chase.
they moved Gotham to the West Coast. Or
Yeah,
no,
they-
they moved it. It would have to go the
Their
other
heist
direction,
takes,
wouldn't
like-
it?
have to go the other way.
Their heist takes 15 minutes in the building. It's already nighttime, and then in the motorcycle chase, it's like 3 in the evening.
see,
Well, you
the
did see
reason it
Rip
was so-
Hunter, so
The reason it was so bright was because the sun was reflecting off the other buildings.
At 3 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Well, they're in the
As
same.
it
They're in
normally
the
is.
same universe that takes Magneto at least 9 hours to move the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes.
In X-Men 3.
So,
But
Ethan-
anyway, yes, Dark Knight.
Ethan, your favorite Dark Knight?
Dark Knight.
Batman Returns for me.
Batman
It's
Returns.
the weirdest. Like, it's one of those movies that like as much as I like the '89 one, but like Michael Keaton, my favorite on-screen Batman. But because I like him as Batman, and I think the stories they do have this sort of Frank Milleriness. Mm-hmm. But then once you get to Batman Returns, you actually get to see Tim Burton doing his Batman. Because when he was doing the original Batman, he's like Killing Joke,
Right.
Dark Knight Returns. That's my inspiration. But then the level of comfort he has with telling a Batman story, and you get to see that in Batman Returns, and it's
that's very
so
much
weird.
a Tim Burton film.
Yeah, it's a Tim Burton. It's Tim. It's
First
act-
one's not as much.
Yeah, the second one
but-
is a Tim Burton film starring
It,
Batman.
yeah, it's
And
Tim
then
Burton
everything
doing
else is
Batman, and
Joel
it's so
Schumacher.
weird, and it's just, and I mean, the story's really concise. It's really well edited.
Yeah.
Stan Winston's makeup in that movie is top notch.
One problem I have with that film, well, the problem I have with that film that made me not like that film is you go through this film and you're spending like 45 minutes setting up Batman as being like perceived as the villain by Gotham, and then there's just like a little radio call, something he plays, and that was it. Everyone's like, oh no, okay, Batman's on our side. Again.
Cobblepot's bad.
Yeah, all right, we get it. So it was.
Well, yeah, he
it's
exposes the
nitpick,
plan of
yeah.
like I'm stealing the children and I'm going to
Yeah.
drown them all in
I
the
haven't
sewers.
seen that movie.
It's also just so like again it's a good
It's
Tim
definitely
Burton
a
movie.
Tim Burton movie.
And that's what I think I enjoy about it most. I mean, but because like when you boil down like Kevin Conroy and Batman the Animated Series, like that's my
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people's
that's my
epitome.
mark
Oh, yeah.
of like the best Batman anything consistently.
Yeah.
And
It's not
What
George
about
Clooney.
what about Joker?
Joker,
Then
best Joker,
Hamill?
Mark Hamill Joker.
Hmm.
I think because like for me, it's like they all run the gamut of like just having. Like you've got like the Cesar Romero Joker, and they all have their
Yeah.
highs and lows. But I don't look at like the Chris Nolan Joker as actually the Joker. He's just a really good Chris Nolan villain.
Yeah.
So I love the Dark Knight's my favorite, but it's not. It has nothing to do with Batman at all. It has to do with the Joker.
And that the thing about I think the reason why people like the Dark Knight so much is that it's not Batman at all. It's just a heist movie with the trappings of the Batman universe.
Well, that's what we've always said. We've said this multiple times.
And that's
on
not
the
a
show.
bad thing at all.
That's
No.
the whole Ant-Man.
Right. We
It's a
that-
heist movie,
yeah.
and we're using Marvel characters.
Right.
I think Nolan's films to a certain degree, like one of my biggest Batman influences is probably the first time I read Batman consistently was Morrison's JLA, and the way that Morrison wrote Bruce was he's the answer man. You're on a team in which Superman is a god among gods, and then Batman's basically his right-hand man who knows everything. The very first Morrison story is the 6 members of the Justice League, 6 of the most powerful individuals in the DC universe, are defeated by this new team, and Batman defeats them almost single-handedly.
Right.
And that set up the way that he writes Batman. There's a later story in which Wally is looking at the team and going, okay, check this out. This is the part right here. This is where Bruce figures it out. And he says like one word, and then he gets basically teleported away. He gets abducted. And everyone's like, oh, wait, what do we do now? Batman's not here. Bruce isn't here. What the hell do we do? So a lot of what I enjoy in that Batman persona, in that aura of Batman, is influenced by the way Morrison wrote him in the JLA series. And I think you see some of that in Nolan's work. It's the argument at the end when people are just like, well, how did he get from Tanzania to Gotham so quickly? Because he's fucking Batman.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but he's fucking Batman. Well, could he have to get on a plane? Yes, who cares?
He's got a bat
He would have
plane.
figured it out.
He has
He's
his own
Batman.
plane.
Yeah.
He takes a private jet.
He
would
would
go a lot
have. He can
faster.
stow away. I'm sure Batman can figure out how to forge enough documentation to get on a Lufthansa airliner and get back to America.
He's got teleporters in the Justice
Yeah,
League
whatever.
satellite.
I don't care.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
the thing. When again, if you enjoy the story, I like Dark Knight Rises. It's not my favorite, but I enjoy it enough to forgive its shortcomings. Where people I thought just went after it so hard, and then you
Right.
start nitpicking those little pieces. And what I did with Iron Man 3.
Well, that's what I've always said with movies is like if it's enjoyable enough to while you're watching it and you're immersed in it, you let go of like what Chris was saying. You let go of these little tiny things that you're just like, well, that's stupid. You
Except
know?
for the other guys, right? You
Except
just-
you
Well,
don't
no,
let it
because he
go.
didn't
no,
enjoy
because
it.
that entire movie was. a
But
bunch
this
of
is
stupid
like I said.
little
This was
things.
very difficult for Ethan because he's only seen like 6 films.
But you don't let go of those nitpicky things.
No.
They're still in you. You just don't express them because you
Right.
don't want to ruin the moment until later down the line, and you do a podcast and you start nitpicking the shit out of movies.
And you're like,
So-
I'm nitpicking stuff I enjoy.
I mean,
This is-
Well, especially for movies, for me, like my sort of rule of thumb is like if my acceptance of the movie isn't, like the suspension of disbelief, if it doesn't happen at any point in the movie, that doesn't really make a good movie for me. Especially because something like Dark Knight Rises, for me, that was a movie like Dark Knight, like. Yeah, I like the movie, and I can sit there and it's like, well, that's kind of weird and that's kind of weird, but I don't really think of it. But if I'm sitting down in the movie, it's like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And why? And because like for me, like they do this like weird scene where he has like, it's like, I'm old, but look at me put on these cybernetic implants on my legs and arms, and I can kick through brick pillars, and I go, oh, good, he's gonna get ready to fight Bane, and then like it's like you can kick through a brick wall. Why don't you just kick a hole in his chest, Batman?
Well, that's I mean, there's something the brace thing. It was very Dark Knight, Batman: The Dark Knight, the comic book.
Right, and it's one of those things where like
inspired because
like,
that's what he has. He
yeah,
has to
because
put
I
on the
like
braces
that's
and
awesome. I'm geared up for this. Going to be epic fight. Like Batman's going to get a little bit of that extra power, and then it's not
Well,
acknowledged.
the suit's really heavy. No, I mean I have that problem in a lot of different
Yeah.
things. I have a problem in a lot of comics where it's like if you have Superman who can punch the planet into two, why does he fall backwards when he gets hit with a bus? Brazzaro picks up a bus and throws it at him. It's just a bus. It should
Right.
disintegrate around him. Star Wars, you have Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars cartoon be able to manipulate the smallest of pieces. He can take apart a lightsaber and all its individual pieces with his fingers, but someone shows up and puts, the classic hostage situation of putting someone in front of him with a gun to its head, and Anakin just drops his saber like, I don't know what to do. I can't rip the
It's not
gun
like
out
he-
of his
it's
hand.
not like he can't just make the gun. Just
Yeah, it's not
completely-
like I can turn off his effing mind. I mean, it's the power level. You adjust your power levels of your characters to fit what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you want Superman
yeah.
to fall through a building, when Bizarro hits him with a car, the car somehow moves Superman 1,000 feet in one direction when he could fly through a mountain.
Well, it's
Right.
also thinking like, Superman wasn't prepared for it, so he didn't brace himself. Therefore, he gets
We're
knocked.
standing
and
there
it's like-
watching him.
Yeah.
He's got
There's-
super hypersensitivity.
And it's
Again,
also,
we're gonna talk about, he's got supervision. He's going to see Bizarro like me not pick up Volkswagen Beetle, me not hit Superman with it, and then he hits him, and then he goes halfway across Metropolis when he got hit by a bug. That's like no, the bug would. I mean, you just would have been standing there. You hit him with a bug. All that metal in the bug or plastic or whatever it's made out of now is going to just bend around him, and he's just going to be standing there like, what? This is nothing.
And that's why I think they resolved that issue when they did what's so great about truth, justice, and the American way, where they talk about where Superman basically says like, I let buses hit me because I know there may be people inside, so I got to take the impact. I can't stand there.
Yeah.
And he does like that
the
ultimate.
car
power.
was fueled by cryptoethylene, and that's how it.
But no,
Is that what it's called
it's
nowadays?
cryptoethylene. Yes.
But they've done those
ethanol.
sort of like silly explanations where it's like no, I have to take the impact because if there's people on the bus, they're just gonna
Yeah, it's
they're gonna
just
be
like that
crushed
makes
in-
more sense.
They're gonna be
Visually,
crushed
yeah.
into
Visually, you
powder.
want to put him into some sort of danger.
But you
Yeah.
could do like an issue like because they did that. He sort of did go like that Super Saiyan Goku, like people just punching him and nothing happening.
Yeah.
and it's like oh, you finally get to see Superman if he's actually enforcing his maximum.
Yeah,
power.
even like
you
the
shoot
the-
him with a Tommy gun for 45 minutes, nothing happens.
Yeah.
You throw the Tommy gun at him, and he falls over unconscious. It's
Well, do you think that's one reason why Batman is so much more popular than Superman? because he is human and he can get hurt and he has.
I don't see.
had a-
I don't see Batman being more popular than Superman.
Oh yes, he is.
Yeah?
Well,
Oh,
I-
by leaps and bounds. Batman has been voted as the most popular comic book
But
character
I think
in history.
but I think there's a different like comic book fans. They like Batman more. You know, there's no question. I think culturally, I mean that's something that's pretty much impossible to quantify. Because because people love the ideals of Superman.
Yes.
People love
when,
the ideals
when you're
of
talking
Batman.
about what Superman stands for and that sort of thing. If you're not reading the stories, it also helps that Batman has Batman is like Daredevil for Marvel, in that there is just an unconscionably amazing array of artists and writers who have been able to tell Batman stories, and it speaks to the character that you created. That so many people can find interesting ways to get into that character. People want to write him not because, oh, Batman, well, the kids love Batman, so I want to write Batman. It's, I like Batman. I've enjoyed Batman as a creator, and I want to put my stamp on it.
Yeah.
You know, Jeff Loeb, when he went to DC, he wanted to write Batman. And
Right.
he eventually got to, he got the chance to do it.
And he did Superman as well, and he did
Superman. He did the best. He did my favorite Superman story.
Superman for all seasons is easily one of my tops. But it's interesting. I had a conversation with one of when I used to work at the shop, one of the coworkers at the time, and we were both talking about it. And we sort of talked about how people sort of go like, "Oh, Batman is the more relatable of the two." And I go like, "How?" And we sort of had this idea. It's like, yeah, we like Batman, but we sort of never like. I still don't understand when they say relatable, because like it's like I'm not a billionaire.
Relatable is the stupidest buzzword.
Yeah,
in
it
history.
is.
Yeah, but you can
It
say-
is. My parents didn't get shot in an alleyway. You know, I'm not clinically insane.
That's that what is that DMX meme? You're like, well, we heard you like Batman, so we went and shot your parents.
You know,
See-
and for me, like a character like Superman is far more relatable, and it's beyond the powers.
This
It's
is it.
like
I don't-
Superman has parents who love him. He's overall a good person and who tries to do the right thing. It's like I can't relate.
That's-
I can't relate to a man who has OCD on the level of like foregoing an entire lifetime to
But
fight
see-
an unwinnable war on crime. At least Superman knows when he needs to take a day off.
Well, like I always say, the difference between Batman and Superman is, for Superman, he needs to be Superman, but he wants to be Clark Kent.
Yes.
Bruce needs to be Bruce, but wants to be Batman.
Right.
That's the way I've always put it, is the
Right.
difference. If Bruce could give up the Bruce Wayne persona and just be Batman full time, he would do it.
Right.
Because he doesn't allow himself a lot of the trappings of a real life. The
And
other
it-
way
and-
around,
and it's
Clark
not- I
allows
don't even
himself
know
to
if it
have a
needs
job.
to.
He
Yeah.
allows himself to have a girlfriend and then a wife in the older continuity. He allows himself to have those friends, those people that are close to him,
Yeah, he's still-
who aren't a part of his. You know, Jimmy, for the most part, is not a part of his crime fighting, contingency. Batman's friends are his fellow crime fighters. Batman's friends are people that also go and punch up villains and stuff like that.
Right.
Bruce's
And
friends
depending
are
who writes-
Batman's
yeah.
friends.
And depending
Clark's
on who
friends
writes Batman,
are not Superman's
depending
friends.
on who writes Batman, though, he doesn't consider them friends.
Exactly.
And it's not
Which
even
I
so
get
much.
so tired of. Oh.
Yeah, and it's not even so much that he needs to be Batman wants to be Bruce. Depending on
can't
who
be
writes him,
Bruce.
he just can't. He doesn't have the psychological component anymore to do so.
Right. Well,
Versus-
that's it. Needs and wants.
Yeah,
He needs
versus-
to be.
yeah.
Batman is.
Well,
he
you
is
know,
Batman.
Versus someone like Superman, who
Bruce.
it's like,
Bruce is the secret, and
Right.
Superman is the secret for Clark.
Yeah, Clark. Yeah, because Superman is Clark Kent.
The best Clark Kent stories are: I just want to stay home.
Yeah.
I just want to take care of my wife. I just want to write Pulitzer Prize winning stories. I want to be able to help people.
I want to be a normal.
and I have the, and I have the
but
power to do so.
I
too,
have
so
this
do.
power. I have a responsibility
Right.
to protect everyone from the entire planet as a whole to a kid down the street. Bruce is the other way around.
Right.
To me, Bruce is like, I have no choice. I have to use all my money. I have to use. He goes out to be. He goes out to be Batman. He's like, I'm going to train myself. I'm going to spend years away from home. I'm going to use my money to buy Batmobiles and
Well, I have
Batplanes
to. I
and
have to
stuff
say
like
one thing
that.
about the Gotham, the new season of Gotham. The little bit that they had Bruce in it, you get that feeling from Bruce as a kid that you can see that he feels he has no choice but to do this, and that you can already get those seeds that
Right.
which that to me that's the only redeeming quality of the show
Well,
right now.
even in the first season, for as little as I like the show, the Bruce and Alfred stuff was always some of the really good stuff. Even if it's like that 2 minutes. But for me, like again, it's like the greatest moments of Superman. Even when they did something like Lois and Clark, he's talking to Lois. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know a good place to get Chinese," and he goes to he flies to China, gets authentic Chinese food, and brings it back to the office for everybody.
Right.
Or when he wants to go have dinner with his family, he'll take time out of his day to go back to Kansas and have dinner with his mom.
Yeah.
But do you think that one reason that Batman, as they say, is more relatable is because an actual
Everybody wants revenge.
Well, no,
so
well,
it's
that,
a catharsis.
Everybody wants
I
a
would-
bajillion gazillion dollars.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
yeah,
so because
but
Clark
it's-
is not making big money.
Everybody
being
wants
a
to be,
reporter.
everybody wants to be Clark Kent in their public persona, and then everybody personally wants to be Batman.
I wouldn't mind being
to
Bruce
just
Wayne
beat the
either.
shit up. Well, yeah.
So what you're saying is
besides
everybody
that,
wants
but
to be
everybody's-
Superman in the
No, I
streets
know.
and Batman in the
I
streets.
said relatable is such a
right
stupid
the
term
wrongs.
because it's
Well,
I'm
yeah.
not going to be Superman tomorrow. I'm also not going to be Batman tomorrow.
But do you think it
because
also
this
could
was
be
like,
that?
oh, you could be Bat. This idea, like, well, you could be Batman if
No,
you
you
want.
can't.
No, you can't. Because my parents weren't millionaires who then invested enough money to be billionaires. I don't own my own
He's
company.
also not.
My
I'm not
mindset's
going to
not
take
there.
7 years of my life to go and train in the Himalayas and become an effing ninja.
but if you were a kid,
Bruce, but then again,
If you
Bruce is
were-
also a savant as well in the DC continuity. He's among the top 5 smartest people on the planet.
Yeah. Yes.
and that's not
he
that's
trains his mind to be as such.
But
yes, he
but
takes
he's a
advantage of
detective,
his gifts.
But
yeah.
it's like Mr. Terrific, Lex Luthor, and Batman are the top 3 people, and that's also because Mr. Terrific, they're all people who have like that savant. They're a genius. They can retain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can't do that. Batman, those 3 characters are the guys who'd be like, I remember 17 weeks ago at 1:32 p.m. when you said this, man, and those are those characters.
Batman is the most
I think
believable character that could be an actual
I don't
real
think so
person.
because
If you had-
they're vigilantes and none of them are have
in terms of
amazing-
just punching.
Well, if you, if
Yeah,
you had,
that could-
if you
that could
had
exist,
a billion
such as the guy
trillion
at, what,
dollars and
Seattle or some shit.
you were Bill Gates' son, and Bill Gates gets killed, and you decide, you know what, I really want to take revenge out. I have all this money now. I'm going to get myself
But
very
the thing
trained.
is, it's also you gotta remember, it's not revenge.
That's true.
It's not vengeance,
It's,
but
it's not vengeance. It's
I think people identify with the base nature
His-
of Batman.
yeah. What he wants to do is to try and get to a point, and he knows it's unwinnable. He wants to try to get to the point where this doesn't happen
Right.
to anybody else. He's a protector. He wants to make sure. The Punisher is revenge. The Punisher is I'm going to go kill everybody who even would come within a billion steps of doing what happened to my family.
Right.
Batman is more of I just want to protect my city. I just want to make sure that mom and dad and the kid can walk home from the theater and make it back to their apartment without being murdered, without being accosted,
Right.
without being robbed.
The Punisher is very proactive in his war on crime.
Yeah.
Batman is basically a band-aid on on the problem. But I would agree. People identify with not so much Batman, but they identify with the themes of Batman, of protection and wanting to be safe, and also wanting,
and also now of being
and
the
Buzz-
smartest guy in the room.
yeah, and I mean, and I'm going to use the buzzword power fantasy, but people want the ability. I mean, that's with all characters though in a fantasy setting is a character who can get out there and do the job. Everybody wants to be the hero,
Right.
And I mean, that's something that all superheroes are to everybody who enjoy them. Is that it's like, yeah, wouldn't it be nice if my problem could be solved? With going to the Bat computer and taking some time out of my day, or being having that moment, being Lex Luthor who can build a suit, or
Yeah.
So it's fascinating, and I think that's what people identify with. He's like James Bond. Everybody wants to have the money. Everybody wants to get the girl or the guy. Everybody wants to get the accolades. And the problem is that Batman is a character that doesn't want that. It's just sort of the side effect of what he does. People love him, but he doesn't care. And I've always sort of seen Batman as a guy who very much on that Asperger's spectrum of
Asperger's. Ew.
yes, he's got the Asperger's. They're in the back of the utility belt. It's like pocket 7.
Each cheek,
And I there's like Bruce Wayne. At least for me, when I read interpretations of him, is like Catwoman's always chasing him down, but I see Bruce Wayne and Batman as characters. Like even though he has sex with women, he's a character that like
Does he? Does he really?
Well, I've always seen him as sort of asexual
well,
too.
the New 52 started out right away with it.
Right. Well, even the Frank Miller, but I've always seen him as a character that does it because it's what's expected of him.
Yes.
If he could literally.
Yeah, definitely was not a part of his persona mid to late 90s when they're
Right.
like, we can finally put this in comics again.
Right, but it's the idea that like if he could completely wall himself off as Batman and never take that suit off, that's a character that Batman would be.
That's the more kinkier Batman.
So, who do you think has been the best writer for Batman?
Paul Dini.
It's hard. I mean, if you're taking all incarnations,
Yeah. That's
To
how
me,
did
I
it.
think you've got Paul Dini, and for me, it would be Frank Miller because he just redefined it. Chuck Dixon too is just a solid detective Batman Robin run. I thought he got that universe on a very basic issue to issue, day to day level.
Yeah.
He was one of the better ones too, and had actually written more Batman pages than anybody in history. There's one person ahead of him, but he's like the second one. But-
Snyder's got to be getting close to that because he's been doing.
no, Snyder's written the most words.
And the few endings.
Yeah.
No, I've
Do you-
said that I've also liked Snyder stuff too.
Yeah.
His Batman, for me, when he had Dick Grayson take over. as
Oh, that
Batman,
Black Mirror year
easily the best
is
thing
amazing.
he's done for Batman.
His Court of Owls is good. The two Joker stories are fantastic. The Year Zero or Zero Year
0 year was
is
long.
really long. If you cut out the middle, they would have just had it in the Gotham shut down the Riddler. If it was just the Riddler stuff, I think it would have been fine.
Right.
And the story now of this is Bruce. Spoilers.
Janitor Bruce.
Well, no, Bruce is an amnesiac who Alfred says you lost your parents and everything turned out to be fine.
Yeah.
This is the Bruce that Bruce always wanted to be, or some stuff like that, and it's just
And they did that story in Batman the Animated Series, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
so for me it's
With
Dini
Hugo
and
Strange,
and
yeah.
Miller.
Yeah, easily Dini for me. And Dini's Batman Detective,
It's good stuff.
four trades that they seem to never want to reprint.
The Black Casebook or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like just the I guess the entire run was just Batman Detective, and I'd love an oversized collection or 2 volumes of like all 4 or 5 trades put together.
Yeah, it seems odd that they don't.
Okay, so as far as villains, because Batman has probably one of the best rogues gallery of all comic book heroes. Who would you say is your favorite villain?
I always love Mr. Freeze, and it's part of it's the backstory. Well, the pre New 52 backstory.
Right, yeah, because
His New
that's
52
actually
backstory just totally ruined
Paul
him.
Dini created
Yeah.
that backstory for Batman Animated Series. They transplanted.
And
it into the
I love
comics.
the design work for him. And
Yeah.
it's from a purely visual standpoint. I love the different takes on what Mr. Freeze looks like. I don't know what it is. It just looks cool. I mean, nothing's ever going to beat the Schwarzenegger ice suit with the spikes and stuff.
powered by diamonds.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
because diamonds are ice. Because they're made out of ice. No, they're not. So
Because all the rappers they
I
call
think
it ice.
to me the most interesting villains is Mr. Freeze and Two Face because of his past as Harvey Dent.
Yes.
He's always been a fascinating villain to me.
Ethan?
Well, going off what the animated series was, and it's Clayface, obviously. But
Clayface.
just in general, I've always been drawn to the Joker as a villain.
What about you, Sebastian?
Mr. Freeze and Clayface. They're my two. Because I've always wanted to see a Clayface like a Batman movie done in the style of John Carpenter's The Thing with Clayface.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing. And Mr. Freeze, because I think especially what Paul Dini did with him, and then they transplanted into the comics, was so good for a villain. Because the Joker, it's like, well, he has the Killing Joke. We have a good origin for him. But he's still, I mean, up until you get to that point where it's like, well, he's very sympathetic until you sort of realize when he snaps, there's no redemption. But for Mr. Freeze, there's always that kernel of humanity left in Mr. Freeze that gets him to stop, or Batman can at least convince him to change his mind on doing something.
Right. Well, Mr. Freeze also seems...
So Batman, you're telling me to freeze?
Mr. Freeze also seems like he has the most moralistic reasons for being a villain.
At his most basic, he just wants to be human again and to save his wife.
Yeah.
And that's all, that's
But no, his wife doesn't exist.
yeah. And he was a psycho killer as a little kid. So
Psycho killer.
and
Mikey?
and he
Mr.
wears sleeveless shirts to show his biceps.
Show my guns. Yeah.
His ice muscles.
Yeah.
I've got the big ice muscle biceps.
I have no clue.
Mikey's really good with
but
these.
I've never put any thought into any of that crap, really. Of favorites.
Favorite villain? See, mine...
The wrong person to ask for any of that type of shit.
Mine would probably be the Joker. But then again, I
because he's damaged.
yes, because he's dead. But
That's actually true.
He's ripped.
I like how he's written sometimes. I like
Everybody likes
the
it sometimes.
I like the sociopath. Just I'm going to murder you, and then I'm going to stand there over your body and laugh at you.
You didn't read the Adventures of Superman story, did you?
No.
The one that Max Landis did.
No,
That was so good.
It's so amazing because not only is it a hey, this is why Superman rules, but it's also through Superman, he's like, why does everybody like you? You realize the point is that we're not supposed to like you. For the
Right.
Joker, he's fighting the Joker, and he's like, you're just a psycho. There's nothing redeeming of
nothing
you whatsoever.
behind you.
Why is there a cult of the Joker? Like, why does anybody find this fascinating?
Right.
It's stupid. You snapped and you killed people. That's all you are. The Joker as a character is very, very basic.
Yes.
And that's to me like it's Joker's a great character to use once in a while. It's like a Doomsday thing with Superman. Doomsday is never going to be a very fascinating character because he's got no backstory other than they built him in a lab so
Right.
that he could kill Superman. He's a good character once in a while because it makes it very dangerous for Superman. Some of those big stories with the Joker, the Joker's the only one that could have killed Robin.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Two-Face or Mr. Freeze or Poison Ivy kill Jason Todd, it's a much different story because that raises everybody's stakes. You're like,
Right.
what?
Right,
The Joker's
yeah.
the only one. You have that character exist for that very reason of when you had to do something very, very, very bad. When you had to put a phone call and say, hey, you know what? We're pretty sure that everybody hates this character. Do you want him to die? Oh, yes, you do. Wow, do you ever? That's who you use to kill him.
Right.
Right. Especially
and
the
that's
sad part about that story is that when the DC writers from that era talk about Jason Todd, completely unintentional to write him as like a snot-nosed brat. They just wanted to make him different from Dick Grayson.
It's the Damien thing too,
Yeah.
where what they found to be fascinating with Damien of making him so cocksure and so, I'm doing this the right way.
He's Jason Todd 2.0.
And everybody hated Damien until you get to the Batman and Robin where he's with Dick
right.
and Grayson. Where
Glad you had to put
yeah,
that in there.
But he starts
Batman's
to
with
open
Dick.
up as he gets as Grayson is treating him differently, going, look, I'm not your dad. I'm not the Batman. I understand. You're having a tough time. This is hard. You think you know how to do this. Maybe you don't. And if you do, let's find out if we. And so they bring that together. They just had the newest Grayson issue is Grayson revealing to all the other Bat characters that he's still alive after Final Crisis, and everyone's like, you're a dick. Not only are you named Dick, but you're a dick for doing it. Except Damien, who sees him and immediately puts his arms around him and says, I was hoping you'd make it back. I never really believed that you were dead because you're amazing.
Yeah.
And you're still my favorite Batman ever instead of my dad. But it was that relationship that made Damien so much more human too. And the fact that, it also helps that he died too.
Yeah.
As part of that story.
See, and I would have said Harley is one of my favorites, my favorite because I loved the way that she was originally portrayed. She came about. She fell in love with the Joker through the story of her being a doctor and everything.
That's Paul Dini.
Yes, I think they've gone way too far with her
Find
now.
that story, the Paul Dini story, to also be a reflection of the audience.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Of what I was just talking about, that idea that you just look at her and go, wait, what? Why
Yeah.
do you love him so much? Because I can. Because he's just so crazy and he's weird. He's damaged. I like him. Like, no, you're not supposed to like him.
That's not. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So
Well,
it was
that's why
very
I
much
love-
reflection. Have
That's
you ever
what I
seen
love.
that? There's that long meme. It's like it's Lois and Clark, and it's like she loves him because he's strong.
Yeah.
Catwoman and Batman, she loves him because he's mysterious. And they go through it's like Flash, Green Lantern. She loves him because he's witty. She loves him because he's creative. And then it's Harley and Joker, and it says, and then there's this crazy bitch. I don't know. You just read it all the way through, and you're just like, she loves him because he's strong. She loves him because he's mysterious. She loves him because he's witty and funny. She loves him because he's creative. She loves him in Aquaman. She loves him because he cares for his people. And then there's this crazy bitch. It's just, I don't know. I just love that one.
Harley was also one of the very first characters that was created outside of the comic books.
Yes.
Egghead, hello. We can't get Mr. Freeze on this show, but we have Vincent Price playing Egghead.
So,
Don't be afraid to use
That's what
your
I like.
nails, boys.
okay.
That's what I like about the Max Landis because Max Landis talks about a couple of years ago he on a social media in his blog he talked about Superman and what he'd always wanted to do with him and talked about sort of the failings of them trying to do all these Superman movies, and it sort of came to a head with Man of Steel when he didn't necessarily like sort of wink and a nod. Everybody's like, I'm talking about Man of Steel. Let me talk to you about how Superman should be. And then somebody at DC had the brilliant idea, just like, all right, man, put your money where your mouth is. We're going to stick you on Superman Adventures. Tell your story. Tell us why you're so great at writing Superman. And he pumps out like just 2 solid issues of just this amazing, like, here's why Superman is a really good guy. And here's why you liking the Joker is really weird.
Yeah, not only does he use that experience to write an amazing Superman story, but also uses it as a way to kind of decry this cult of the Joker sort of thing, which is fantastic.
So, your favorite non-Batman character in the Batman universe?
So everyone but Batman. Your
Yeah, everybody but Batman.
I'd probably just go with the villain, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
On the other side would probably be Grayson because of the way that they allowed him before everything had to absolutely exist in this bubble and nothing can ever change. They allowed Grayson to become a different, he becomes Nightwing, he becomes this father figure to all the other Robins.
That's Grayson's my favorite as Nightwing.
Grayson was also one of the ones who enjoyed being a hero.
Right.
The Nightwing series that Dixon and McDaniel started, especially, you can kind of see when he goes to Bloodhaven, and it's just so much fun. It's just a really fun sort of thing. He's like, I get to be, this is cool.
Yeah.
I get to be this awesome hero and do these things, and I have a lot of fun with it. That hot redhead over there likes me. I mean, she's in a wheelchair.
Barbara Gordon pre-New 52 for me is a really strong character because like she goes through something like the Killing Joke and has a really long history with Batman, but then is able to overcome it and overcome her disability and become sort of the eyes over Gotham and becoming almost an equal to Batman.
You're right. No, I like her as Oracle too.
And then they sort of brought her back in the New 52 with like, oh, she just got better. Like, well, you don't really just get better from
and then
paraplegia.
they kind of didn't, and they kind of did. Yeah, I thought there was a lot of characters in the Batman universe that they allowed to
grow
change, and their
change.
roles were replaced. The role of Robin is replaced.
Yeah.
But each Robin is different. Even when they brought Jason Todd back in the worst way possible, because the original way they were going to do it was amazing. You allow these progressions, and you start to look at it and see that Batman's the constant. The way that Bruce is as Batman is pretty much the constant. He goes through these phases where he's a little more forgiving. Go through these phases where he's a little more connected to everybody that's there. But the woman who was Batgirl became Oracle. The guy who was Nightwing becomes, the guy who was Robin becomes Nightwing. The other Robin, once he comes back, becomes the Red Hood.
That's what as much people really like Cameron Stewart's run on Batgirl, but that for me is a complete. I think as much money as it's making because it's sort of playing to the teen crowd and. They're dressing it up. And
it was instead of creating a new character, like what they ended up doing with Cassandra is they made a new Batgirl character who was
Completely different.
fascinating
Right.
on her own, and then they took away the most important thing about her very quickly, which was super, super stupid. But she became a cult figure. You have someone like Stephanie Brown who who eventually gets to the role of Robin, then gets it taken away, gets to the role of Batgirl. And becomes super
erased.
popular,
Yeah.
and then it's, we're going to do this New 52 thing, and instead we can't. No one's going to really understand because Barbara Gordon was Batgirl in 1966. We have to make sure that's still there,
Right, and for me, the Cameron Stewart run, she's basically sort of become a mouthpiece for his political ideologies, and that's neither here nor there. And I won't make any sort of comments towards them. No, and it's not that I don't align with him, but I also don't feel like using a character like Batgirl to completely revert her character into essentially a teenage girl again was the way to go about it. If they had done a new Batgirl with in that sort of style, sure, but it's to follow the journey of Barbara Gordon and to have her work so hard and overcome so much to suddenly become 21 again.
Yeah, and
especially
have to
after
remind people in every issue that she is older than she looks.
Right.
I mean, every issue there's some line of, yeah, I know I look like I should be in high school, but I'm really,
Right.
a
Do you think
college
that they
graduate.
should have just done it as a Robin and
I should no.
evolve the
I wouldn't have
character
mind if they
for a
had.
different
Well,
person?
Honestly, the New 52 should have been Barbara Gordon as Oracle and Stephanie Brown as
Yeah,
as-
and
as
easily
Batman.
you could have taken the book that they have now,
And you're
with-
basically you
Yeah.
would have done a second Batman type, but you would have done it in the vein of Batman Beyond,
Right.
of her being the
mentor.
mentor who is unable to do the job that she wants to do physically, but is able to go through. That's all Birds of Prey was. Birds of Prey was Barbara going, well, I can do all the computer stuff, but when someone needs to go get their face punched in, I can't do it.
Right.
Excuse me, Bat Clary, come here. Come here.
Right.
Come here. Come here. Go punch that guy right now.
Yeah,
okay,
and-
cool.
Yeah, and that's
You
you
know.
know, especially after Gail Simone's pretty stellar run on that book, sort of like, okay, I understand why you decided to use Barbara Gordon again, and making it, you know, very rough and tumble, bringing it back to like, well, it's still a very adult book with a lot of adult themes, and her dealing with like, you know, like, I have to be a superhero again. I was in a wheelchair for years, and then sort of like, again, like stop all that. It's like where like they were clearly drawing her older, you know, late 20s. And to make it so like, oh, she's a teenager now, or at least she has the personality of a teenager, and everything has bright colors, and it's just so it's such a jarring change, and it feels very disrespectful to the character and what they did with her to try and sort of
Yeah,
like
to me, it's making Dick Grayson Robin again.
Right.
Like, why
Yes.
why go through the last 30 years of this, of developing not only the Nightwing persona, but the way that Dick Grayson has changed, and all of a sudden throw that all away just so he can put on the pixie pants again. You know, it
Right,
just doesn't make any
no,
sense.
that's the perfect way to say it. It would have been like taking Dick Grayson where he is now and suddenly doing an issue right after a really good run and going, it's like, well, he's Robin again.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like 30, but he's really like 18. He's really just, we're just drawing
Yeah,
him.
and
18,
all of a sudden we're going
19.
to throw away all the ideas that Dick and Bruce are much closer to each other now.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
Grayson is, you know, he's made himself into more of a detective, of more of, you know, doing the background work and that type of stuff, but then also being a different physical fighter than Bruce, but he's able to hold his own just like Bruce would. I mean, in different styles, but Bruce it got to the point where they were saying Bruce and Grayson are pretty close.
Right.
You know, in terms of their martial arts, it's a different style, but they would be able to handle, you know, a dozen people in a warehouse doesn't really phase either of them.
Right. It's like, it'd be like if the next Winter Soldier series was Bucky back to pre-Ed Brubaker, G. Willikers Cap.
Gee Willikers.
And everyone would be like, what the?
No, I want that series now.
How
Gee
did he get his
Willikers,
arm
stay-
back?
Why does he have a non-robot arm? Why is he?
That's
wearing-
when Rich would disown him right there. Like, no.
Well, see, he got damaged, and so now I really like.
Yeah, that's for me what and that, like, no disrespect to Cameron Stewart. It's not that he's not a good writer, and it's not that the book isn't good for what it is. But it's,
No, it's a book. I've been reading it mostly for the art,
yeah, because the art's absolutely gorgeous. Babs
Yeah.
Hart does an amazing job on that.
but
book.
I definitely it's not the same character, and I don't think it should have been. And
Right.
again, I thought they had a chance here to introduce someone like Cassandra Cain.
or
if you're gonna redo
or
it.
Stephanie Brown, and like if that had been a Stephanie Brown book, people would have fallen in love with Stephanie Brown all over again. She
Yeah.
got really popular, and she kind of was that character.
Well, and everybody
made
had
her
wanted her to
Batgirl.
come. Once the New 52 started, everybody was wondering, when's Stephanie Brown coming back? When's Stephanie Brown
Yeah,
coming
where's
back?
Cassandra Cain? What
Yeah.
happened? You said that all these people existed and then
Yeah.
took it away. It's like,
Yeah,
so
that
like-
very short run from Brian Q. Miller
Yeah.
is fascinatingly awesome.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
it's just a shame that it doesn't really. I mean, it's really hard to get now. It's not reprinted and it's not in print anymore. and
Okay,
it
so-
sucks. It also has the most meta of all New 52 or pre New 52 endings.
Yeah, where it's like I
Where
think-
Stephanie's on the rooftop and she says, "It only doesn't." It's just like if you're bothered by the change, that's kind of like your fault. It doesn't mean this
Yeah.
goes away. You know, it only goes away if you want it to, or something like
Yeah.
that. And then she
Yeah.
just goes off into the
and then
sunset.
they never reprint her book ever again,
Yeah.
and it really does go away.
So
no
glad I
digital.
tracked it- I'm so glad I trapped those down. As soon
Yeah,
as I
no
could.
digital, no trade paperbacks. Just like it's like it's only gone if you want it to be gone. Okay.
Hey Dan, what do you think about Stephanie? Who? I don't know who you're talking about. There's a character that doesn't exist. Oh, we're gonna bring her back. She's gonna be the Blue Robin Beetle thing, whatever her name is. Gonna introduce her in Batman
What's a
Eternal.
Cassandra Cain?
And she's gonna be crazy.
Keep sending those waffles, Stephanie Brown fans. I will do so if you do to bring her back to normal.
But now she's Bluebird, Blue Bob, Blue.
Nah.
The tweet.
Send the waffles.
She's the
Keep
tweet.
sending them
She's the
waffles.
tweet.
She looks like the little tweet symbol.
She's the tweet.
Does she even like waffles anymore? I don't even know that because that was her thing before. Like the sort of funny thing, like her favorite food was waffles, and now in the New 52
Make it Waffles.
because she's like super edgy. Are Waffles too kiddie?
No, I think she likes boba.
Boba
and,
tea?
and like ramen noodles. I can only buy them at a
Ramen
street corner
burgers?
store.
So the future of Batman, what do we think is going to? Do you think he's going to keep the hype up, or do you think?
Well, he
that-
gets older, and then this kid named Terry McGinnis comes in and starts.
Terry who?
No, there's a Batman Beyond book.
Yeah,
put him back in his own time.
Batman Beyond does fit into it. And I like Batman Beyond.
A lot of people like Batman Beyond. I never got into Batman Beyond, but I know
So-
Well,
a
the
lot of
current
people
Batman
sort of-
Beyond is
Wasn't that Convergence?
is Tim Drake.
Oh, that is Tim Drake now.
Yeah, they erased all of the Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond to make it Tim Drake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pre New 52, it was Terry McGinnis.
Well, Sarah McGinnis in this too,
Oh,
because the Future's End is Terry.
It's Terry, but then
that's
when
And
they
then,
did
yeah, post convergence, the number one is
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake.
So they sort of erased Terry after Convergence,
I
or
like-
shunted him off into his own universe.
So does Red Robin exist, or is that just in the presence now?
No, in the present he's still Red Robin. In the future he's Batman Beyond.
Red Robin. Red Robin.
There you go.
So nearing the future, we have Batman versus Superman in the movie theaters.
I'm Batman.
And they cut out a lot of Superman to make it a Batman movie.
Yes, they did.
I'm not going to allow him to be in my movie.
Who's your favorite Newsy Clark?
When you first saw,
Newsy did you base your character
when
on?
you guys first saw Ben Affleck as being named as Batman,
You lost your goddamn.
I was
mind.
one of the people on the internet that
I lost
You
my shit, too.
screamed
I lose-
like a little bitch.
I lose my temper with some things, like Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, like
The new origin of Captain Cole.
the origin of Captain Cold, awful.
That's the first time, like, working with Sebastian for a few years, and Sebastian's very, very kind of even keel. I don't see him get too high. I don't see him get too low. He went
I
through
get
a-
I get my
he
triggers.
He went through a
to-
lot of shit. Doesn't phase him. Just does his job. We get the new Captain Cold figure from the New 52, which changes his origin to him being a superpowered
He's a
being.
metahuman,
He's a
yeah.
metahuman. So we get the figure. I put it on the shelf. Sebastian sees it and is like, "Fuck Captain Cold." Fuck that goddamn Captain
And
Cold. And just starts pacing. And I'm like, what? What is wrong? And he tells me the story of how much he hates the new Captain Cold because they took away the most interesting thing about him is that he built his own gun or stuff
Yeah,
like
and thank goodness Jeff brought him back. When
that.
he
Yeah,
did.
one of the few things they did. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
Jeff-
the conversions tie-ins.
Not to convert, they did it for the series where they kidnapped Dick Grayson. The title's escaping me. That 8-issue miniseries, like
Yeah, not convergence. I'm sorry. Futures. No, Forever Evil.
Forever
God.
Evil, and that was the one thing I absolutely
Yeah, they have the evil version of Firestorm remove the gene out of him, so he has to build.
and so he has, and it's like thank you, Leonard Snart being smart again and building his own cold guns, and just and then being a badass because they have that great moment like an issue or two later where he's like, it's like, "Are you going to shoot me with a gun?" It's like, well, it's not like Mr. Freeze's cold gun. Let me distract you while I explain that it really stops all molecules and they freeze to absolute zero. And then in that moment, he freezes Johnny Quick's legs off. I think in that issue, it's like that is the Captain Cold I love. Thank
So
you.
in the
Jeff.
Flash TV series, are you happy or upset because he didn't actually build his gun?
Well, but he still feels like the Leonard Snart, like the really smart, sure his costume's like they gave him a darker color, but he's still wearing the parka, and I appreciate
And he
that
has
so
somewhat
much.
of the glasses.
I wish they would give him like the dual like cold gun pistols because that would just make him even more badass to be in like Mexican standoffs with
the
people.
Gatling gun looking.
Do you-
But yeah, he's got
Do you
like sort of
like
like
the-
that Mr. Freeze gun from like
Yeah, I
Batman
don't-
and
I don't
Robin.
like that design at
I wish
all.
he had the two pistols, but I appreciate that like he's a cool character.
It's closer to the original.
Do you like the
Yeah.
fact that he's going to be more of a good guy?
They've always teetered him on that
He's always
anti-hero.
the
villain.
rogues. The Flash Rogues gallery has always been that.
Well,
That's one of the
what I
things
did
with
like
the Rogues.
was during the
when they
series-
kill when Bart Allen dies. That's one of the things the Rogues like. Whoa,
This is
what
too
just
far.
what just happened? Because it was someone in the group. It's like whoever would it'd be like the Heatwave character or whatever. The guy who was really. The rest of the Rogues are kind of turning, bringing him back towards the
Sanity,
middle. Yeah. I don't remember what happens when Bart Allen dies. Remember the fallout from it is the other Rogues going, "We didn't,
Dude,
This
we
is
are.
no.
What did you do?
Yeah, they never really killed anybody. They put Central City into chaos. They stole a lot of stuff. But they were never people that would be like Bruce's villains that would not really have a problem with
Killing a whole group
if
of people.
Gotham blows up. It depends on the villain. Mr. Freeze was never set out to kill anybody, really, but that's the way he found to be the easiest way to
Right.
to do what he was doing. But anyway, yes.
Do you guys ever think that they would
What the
ever?
hell was the question?
It was about the TV series. I was asking.
Yeah, I know. Oh, we were talking. Yeah, we
No,
were
no,
talking
but
about,
what?
like-
No, way before that. What was the Batman question?
Oh, because we were talking about
Favorite
Ben Affleck.
non-Batman.
Oh yes, that's
Yeah,
what it was.
and
It was
we were
Ben
talking
Affleck.
about Ben Affleck, and it's like no, I have the things that upset me, but it's one of those things where it's like Batman. It's not. This isn't the Christian Bale Batman. It's like every Batman's going to be different.
But seeing more of the trailers and more of the images coming out. Now,
I also know he can act versus Melissa McCarthy. Like not so great.
Ghostbusters is going to kill you, isn't
The
it?
thing-
No,
thing with-
here's the thing. I'm not even going to go see it.
Yeah, so you
And
understand.
that's easy enough to be like, it's like, nope, I'm good. I'll just be at home.
People who rent TMNT, even though they know what they're going to
Yeah, it's like no, I'll just put on original
put yourself
Ghostbusters
in-
or some of the cartoon and be happy.
Does that
And
cartoon? Is there a collection of the cartoons?
They
somewhere?
did, yeah. They did a
it
complete
still exist somewhere?
series. You could probably, I think they first put it out as a collection and then they did individual volumes.
I gotta watch that.
The
again.
I'd love.
If you're gonna watch it, the first 70 episodes, because that's when J. Michael Straczynski is the showrunner, who inevitably quit. But
What? Shane Krasinski never quits anything.
he never quits anything. But no, like those first 70
I'm
episodes
gonna go
are
for a walk.
really solid stuff.
Oh no, I loved that series when I was
Yeah.
and because it felt like a natural continuation of the movie. I thought
Yeah.
they nailed the characterization really well. Look,
Yeah.
I bought Slimer as a good guy, and I thought it was the dumbest thing when I first saw it. Like, why would they have a ghost who's like a friend?
Because he's not malicious, but it's also
Exactly.
it's also a weird thing with the show because it was co-produced by a Japanese animation studio. So when they did Slimers, like in like Japan, they tend to have like that pet or that like
Yeah.
sidekicky character who's non-human. They threw that in. It's very cool stuff. I mean, the animation's really good. Those
Well, the animation's amazing.
for 70 episodes. I think TMS did the animation in Japan.
Yeah.
for it.
So,
But the thing- okay, well,
not
the-
even Sigourney Weaver's going to save it for you.
No, because she's not playing Dana Barrett. They've all said they're not playing the characters from those movies. That's what they've said, and so it's one of
the Ben Affleck thing.
Yeah.
You lost your mind.
It's
I'm
just-
I still remember because we did storage that day, and we pull in, and it's like 7:00 in the morning. I get out of the car and I'm screaming, "Ben Affleck is Batman!" And I'm just running around in circles, like yelling at Mikey, going, "You don't understand! The world is over! Ben Affleck is Batman!
You don't understand the guy who
Everything's
directed
gone.
Argo and starred in Argo.
You don't
See,
understand. He was
I've
in
always
Daredevil.
said-
He was in Daredevil like years ago. Oh my god! The problem with it is everyone that I'm looking at is like he can't play Batman. He's too old. It's not that Batman.
No, and they
Right.
already said right away that they were skewing older for
that was
him.
the stupidest thing. I'm like, it all depends on how you write the
Argo.
character.
What's his heist movie that he did right after Argo? Also amazing.
the Boston one?
yes,
The town.
the town.
What
also
I've always
amazing.
said-
That
So I
town
don't-
is so good. I
it's-
love that
it-
movie.
and that's
Any
the-
movies that he directs and writes,
He was good in Gone Girl,
great.
too.
He's great in. When he has to carry the movie himself, that's when
But he
has a
doesn't
problem.
because
Paycheck.
Batman has to run the movie. It's look. If you're gonna have a problem with this film,
Batman
I think
versus
that-
Superman 10 years ago when Daredevil came up. Yeah, I would understand your concerns because he had also done
That guy
Pearl
from
Harbor
Mallrats.
at the time. But this
Pearl Harbor's amazing. What are you talking about? 4.5 hours to get to 4 minutes of action.
yeah, it's 4 minutes of action. But no, the
Only thing I remember about Pearl Harbor is when I spilled my soda and realized I'm going to be sitting here for another like 2 hours, and I've spilled my soda all over me. It spilled, and I just remember looking at it like, well, that happened. That's great. I don't know what to do now. If you're going to have a problem with Batman versus Superman, it's not going to be because Ben.
yeah, it's
Affleck
not going
plays
to be
Batman.
Ben.
No,
Affleck.
I
It's
get
going to
that.
be that it's written
storytelling,
terribly.
Zack
That it's going to
Snyder.
take
It's
9
Zack
hours
Snyder.
because it's going to. If they show the origin again, can you imagine how much slow mo he's going to use?
Which just starts on Krypton again.
No, the Batman's origin. Yeah, there's that too.
The bullet going towards Thomas Wayne.
I mean,
15-minute long scene.
you
of the
had
bullet.
Zack Snyder basically do 85 minutes of Krypton because you're like, well, we got a whole bunch of money.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I can't wait. I mean, the
Anybody
Joe
see
Chill.
Avatar?
Joe
We're gonna
Chill's
do
going to have
Avatar.
like 45
Hey, he's
guns.
already said he wants to go back and do a prequel Superman
course
that's
he does.
only on Krypton.
because he saw
That was
Avatar.
Russell Crowe who wants to do that.
Was it?
Yeah,
Crowe?
well, because
Yeah.
Russell Crowe needs money.
Well, yeah.
a job.
But no, it's
I
the
punched another dude with a phone. I got.
it's just so ridiculous because that opening
Stick my
sequence
thumb up
is
the
just like it's like all right guys, we all saw Avatar, we saw it made $1 billion. If we put some Avatar in Superman, we're gonna make $1 billion.
Okay, so let's wrap this thing up. One last question for
Batman's
everybody.
gonna be flying dragons. That's what the
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
That'd be awesome.
It'll start out where the the whole Superman Zod fight.
Yeah, because they,
That's
yeah,
where it's
they,
gonna
they
start
gave it
out,
away in the
yeah.
trailer with him saving the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it takes place, but it's not a sequel to that.
Well, no,
Okay.
Zack Snyder has said it's
And-
Man of Steel 2.
He
But
said it is
then
Man
they've
of
gone
Steel
back
2.
and said this is not the sequel to Man of
It
Steel.
is because Zack
Because
Snyder,
Zack Snyder
keeps
keeps saying
it's,
that it's Man
it
of
is the
Steel
Man of
2.
Steel sequel too.
Yes, but
with
everybody
15
else
minutes of
keeps saying
Batman.
it's not.
15 minutes of Superman, and that's the sequel to Man of Steel 2.
So to wrap this up, one last question: if you had somebody that's never read or never seen or never really experienced Batman,
You mean my job? Batman
what's
Earth
the one? What's the one thing
Earth
that
one.
you would tell them to?
Earth One.
Earth
Earth
One.
One.
No, year one. Earth
Year one,
No.
yeah.
It's always going to be year one.
Year one.
Ethan?
Yeah. Earth 1 is good, but yeah, Year 1.
Yeah.
That's a comic though. Like if it's
If you're saying anything, you come up to me and go, "I know this Batman character exists. I don't want to figure it out."
I want to understand it. I
season
want,
1 of Batman the Animated Series.
I
That's
say
yours.
Batman
Mine-
of the animated series.
yeah,
on the
mine,
whole.
mine. I would still give them. I'd still
Year
give them
one.
But Year 1 as well. Yeah, but Batman the Animated Series is like crash course on everything Batman because there's so much history.
it's like if you had to put a stack of stuff together, would you would put Batman Year One, Batman the Animated Series?
Long Halloween, which is a quasi sequel to Year 1.
Yes.
Because there's the tangent. It's like Year 1 and then everything else, and then Year 1 and Dark Knight Returns and Batman, All-Star Batman and Robin, and then Year 1 and Long Halloween.
I mean, in a way, you can do year one, Long Halloween, and Dark Knight Returns because you have him starting on really as much as Long Halloween is about the killer, it's also about the rise of these supervillains, these
Right.
crazy new things,
Right.
and how it affects the Gotham of old that he's fighting in year one, which is the Falcones and
Right.
the other crime family that all of a sudden just totally escapes me.
Maroni.
Yeah, the Maroni family. That's a big part of Long Halloween. Then you go all the way to Dark Knight Returns, which is really what does Batman stand for? What does he do? I mean, the most telling thing in Dark Knight Returns is the mutants and the way that when he defeats their. He's in a tank. He just has to shoot this guy in the face, and he gets out and fights him hand to hand, and that turns the whole gang into his friend.
Right.
So
Dark Knight Returns is the first book I've ever read of Batman. Then Killing Joke, and then Year One and Long Halloween right after.
I always treat Killing Joke as the last Batman story.
Would you put Killing Joke in
I
your
would give- I
your
would-
list of
I-
things for
I would-
somebody?
I would because it for me it's I like as much as it's still like treated as continuity. Part of me like when I originally read it was a long time ago, but it was also one of those things where like when I first read it, knowing that it was like it's kind of a standalone thing. Like for me, that last set of panels is basically Batman killing the Joker, and the Joker's cries are silenced in the night, and then the sirens pick up. And it's the Killing Joke. It's the Joker's last. For me, and it's that one thing where you sort of see like that, like this is the final confrontation, and I treat it like I would treat Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is Alan Moore's closeout to Superman.
Right.
And they're sort of that same set of stories of like.
I mean,
this
not
is
whatever happened to the Cave Crusader. Neil Gaiman's very bizarre and
very
understandable.
Weird.
Okay,
Weird.
so one last thing, real quick. We're going to build a Batman time capsule. Let's say each of us is going to put in one thing of Batman. Let's go around the table. Chris,
Batman himself.
what's the one thing you'd put in?
It's year one.
Year one. Ethan,
Animated series.
Sebastian.
The rest of the animated
Yeah,
series.
the rest- that's
the
a good one.
new adventures or whatever the second series.
In a time capsule.
In a time capsule.
Like, it's like, here, you want to know about Batman in
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia. No, I probably throw in like probably like a Batman like through the years like a collection of like the toys, because that's been a huge part of Batman
Yes.
is his marketability as a character.
Where does he get all those wonderful toys?
Yeah, probably
Mikey?
a history of Batman like toys and media.
Long Halloween.
Long yeah.
Well, then that leaves me with I have to put in Batman 66
DVDs.
You
because
have to.
No, but you would that needs to be in there too.
It's debatable.
Put a flash drive of Batman 66. Well, it's that I think that I mean the
It's
Batman
a
66
very important part of Batman.
It is.
I'm not debating its
Yeah.
importance.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that because it kind of gives you a good
Why
picture.
doesn't Batman dance?
So, and I'm going to say if whoever's made it through this
That
episode,
episode.
if you want to give us let us know on Facebook or iTunes or something what you would put in the Batman time capsule. And for that, I'm going to say we're going to see you guys later. So stay tuned to the same Bat Time, Bat Station.
Same bad time.
So
same
you had
bad
that in your
channel.
head the whole time.
No, I didn't.
And you screwed up the rest of it to
Same
get to
bad
that.
time.
No, I didn't.
So I'm gonna see you
Same
guys
bad
later.
time.
I'll tell you that later. We'll see you.
No, I just thought of that as I was saying
same
it.
time, bat time.
Same bad time.
Check us out on
Same
Facebook
bad
/
channel.
Nerdables
Whoa.
and on Twitter we're at Nerdables Show.
Will Batman save
I
Robin?
will say this: most disappointing thing in both the Gotham TV series, besides the fact that it sucks, and Christopher Nolan's movies, is that Commissioner Gordon does not have a revolver.
Yeah, yeah.
I was so mad at that. I thought
It's one
Gordon
of the-
should
it's-
always have a revolver.
Well, it's that Frank Miller Captain Gordon, being like a low level cop. So he's got like just a
He
regular
doesn't have it in
6-shooter.
Batman Begins?
No,
No.
he has an automatic in Nolan's movies. Because for me, I love the idea with Gordon is
Totally
he's
old
got the old. Not only that it's old school, is that he never thinks he needs more than 6 rounds. Is that he has exactly what he needs. He never needs something. I'm not going to get into some all out crazy war. I got 6 rounds. I can take care of this. I can fix. I don't
need
even
to finish
need
my
it.
job in 6 rounds.
Yeah,
if I
I don't-
can't do it
I
in
don't
6
need it.
rounds, it's more than
It's
I can
more,
handle.
and it's just from a design aspect, from the idea of this is an old school cop. You're talking about a guy who's incorruptible, who cleans up the force, and everything like that. One of the things that I was really disappointed in the Nolan films is when he didn't have a revolver. I really wanted him to have just a police issue, that standard Colt Python, boom, and that's it.
That would have been good.
I mean, and talking
agree.
about expectations, when they first talked about Gotham, and they immediately said it's all, you get to watch Batman as a little kid. It's the like Patton Oswalt joke about Star Wars, where it's like, oh, you love Darth Vader? We're gonna see him as a little kid, and it's like, oh, is he like a little Damien kid? No, he takes taken away from his mom, and he's really sad. And it's like, oh, you like Boba Fett? It's like, oh, Boba Fett, yes. It's like, well, you get to see his dad die, and he gets sad.
He gets his head cut off by the black man.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you like the Death Star? Well, you get to see it at the end of the movie for 3 seconds being built, and then it's like, oh, I'm very sad. It's like you want some ice
You
cream?
do an odd voice there.
I would like,
The
I would like some ice cream, George. And the jokes are finished. Like,
Dr.
well, here's a big
Evil
bag
voice.
of rock salt.
That's kind of yeah.
Because
Dr. Evil
it's like,
voice.
I don't understand, George. It's like, well, when you mix ice and cream
I'm
and
pretty
sugar
sure. I'm
with
pretty
rock
sure
salt,
you said I don't understand George for a lot of films.
yeah,
You're just in the midichlorians. I don't understand it,
I don't
George.
understand.
So
George.
before we get into Star Wars, I'm going to say
Too
we'll
late.
see you next time.
Oh